You probably think winter gave medieval peasants a rest. No fields to tend, no crops to harvest, just waiting. That idea is wrong, and the reality is far darker. Medieval peasants faced a specific kind of war every winter. A war against cold, darkness, hunger, and time itself. And the strategies they used to survive it changed everything. Let's go back to November in medieval England. The last harvest is finished. The fields are stripped bare. And the first thing a peasant family does is kill a pig. Not out of celebration, out of pure necessity. They couldn't feed large animals through the whole winter. So November became slaughter month across medieval Europe. This timing even had a name, Martinmas, the Feast of Saint Martin. Every part of the pig was used, every single part. The fat rendered down for cooking and for light. The meat salted, smoked, or dried to last through cold months. Salt was expensive. Using too little meant rot, too much meant ruin. Getting the balance right was a skill passed through generations. Now the food was stored, but the real problem was about to begin. Darkness. In Northern Europe in December, you get barely 7 hours of daylight. For a peasant with no clock, the sun was the only schedule. When it set, you either worked by fire or you stopped working entirely. Candles existed, but tallow candles were expensive for the poor. Poorer families used rushlights, rushes soaked in animal fat. They gave off a pale, greasy, flickering glow that lasted minutes. This dim world shaped everything about what peasants did after dark. And here is where something genuinely strange emerges. Medieval people did not sleep the way you sleep. They slept in 2 separate blocks with a waking gap between them. Historians call these first sleep and second sleep. They'd sleep a few hours, then wake in the deep of night. That waking hour was for prayer, for quiet thought, for intimacy. Sometimes for getting up and doing small tasks by firelight, then back to sleep until dawn. 2 sleeps every night. This pattern may have been the natural human sleep cycle before artificial light. Electric light didn't just change when we slept, it changed how we slept. But back to the peasant's winter day, because it was brutally full. Dawn broke around 7 or 8 in the morning. The fire had to be kept alive. This was critical. Letting the fire go out in deep winter could mean disaster. Restarting it required flint and steel, time-consuming and frozen fingers. Many peasant families kept embers banked in ash overnight just to preserve them. The cottage itself was the family's primary defense against the cold. Walls made of wattle and daub, thatched roof above, earthen floor below. And often, on the other side of a thin partition, the animals. Livestock shared the building. Their body heat kept the family warmer. It sounds strange. It was also practical engineering. Once the fire was lit and the animals fed, the real work began. Inside work, the kind that piled up all summer when fieldwork came first. Threshing was the great winter labor, hours upon hours of it. A peasant would beat grain stalks with a flail to separate the seeds. The same repetitive motion, all day, day after day, week after week. It was back-breaking, deafening work in a cold barn. But the grain it produced was the family's food supply. No threshing, no bread. The leftover straw wasn't wasted either. Nothing was wasted. Straw became bedding, animal feed, roof patching, and rope material. While men threshed, women spun. Spinning wool into thread was one of the most important winter tasks. Thread became cloth. Cloth became clothing. Clothing meant survival. A medieval woman might spin for hours every single day of winter. The word spinster originally just meant a woman who spins. That's how central this task was. Weaving, mending, carding wool. The textile chain never stopped. Tools needed repair. The wooden plow that survived harvest was battered. Handles recarved, blades resharpened, harnesses restitched. Every hour a tool was broken in spring was food lost in summer. The lord of the manor had his own demands on wintertime. Peasants often owed labor service to their lord year-round, even in winter. They might be required to cut timber from the lord's woodland, or dig out and maintain the ditches that drained the lord's fields. Hedging, cutting and laying hedges was another winter obligation. These weren't optional. Refusal had consequences. And yet the outdoor work had to stop when it got cold enough. Frostbite was a real and constant threat for hands and feet. Chilblains, painful skin swellings from repeated cold and rewarming, were common. Medieval medical texts mention them. They were a fact of winter life. So on the harshest days, everyone stayed inside and work moved indoors. The cottage became workshop, kitchen, bedroom, and stable all at once. Smoke filled the room. There was no chimney in many peasant homes. The fire was central, in the middle of the room. No chimney, just a hole above. Eyes stung. Lungs took in smoke all winter long. Respiratory illness in winter was a serious danger for medieval peasants. Now here's where the story turns. What about the mind? Long winters with almost no entertainment and constant labor. What did that do? The answer is, the community became everything. Peasants gathered in each other's homes during winter evenings. Storytelling was not a luxury. It was how knowledge, history, and law were passed on. Oral tradition kept memory alive in a world with almost no books. Songs, riddles, local legends. These were winter's entertainment. The church calendar gave winter its structure and its ceremonies. Advent, St. Nicholas Day, Christmas itself, a 12-day feast. For peasants, Christmas was not one day. It was 12 days of relative rest. During feast days, even the Lord was expected to provide food and drink. Ale was the common drink. Brewed at home, relatively safe, slightly caloric. Water was often contaminated. Ale was safer. Everyone drank it, including children. But as January ground on, the real enemy revealed itself. The stored food was running low. The meat carefully salted in November was being eaten through fast. The grain threshed all those weeks was being consumed every day. Late winter, roughly February to April, was the most dangerous time. Old stores were running out. New crops hadn't grown yet. This period even had a name, the Hungry Gap. People ate anything, bark bread, boiled roots, even ground acorns. The weakest, the elderly, the very young, died in late winter disproportionately. Starvation rarely killed directly. It weakened the body enough for illness to finish the job. This was the rhythm of medieval peasant life, every single year. Slaughter, labor, darkness, cold, the Hungry Gap, then spring. Year after year, generation after generation, for centuries. And here is what that should make you feel. You have electric light that abolished the winter dark. You have refrigeration that ended the desperate salt calculation. You have central heating that replaced the single smoky fire. You do not have a Hungry Gap. Every problem the medieval peasant faced in winter, you have a machine for. And yet, we still feel winter. The dark afternoons still feel heavy. The urge to stay inside still pulls. That pull is old, older than memory. The medieval peasant in that cold cottage, they're not so far from you. They woke in the dark and made something from nothing. They kept each other warm when there was nothing else to burn. And they waited every year for the one thing that always came. Spring,